Ever opened your scriptures and thought to yourself, hey God, how is this going to help me with that? Today I want to share with you probably the most powerful method that I have used in scripture journaling, and it is the power of asking questions. And I know that sounds really simple, but let me explain to you why this has been so powerful to me. Several years ago, I was scrolling through my social media feed and I came across a friend of mine who shared an experience about how powerful it was for her to open up a journal every day and at the top of the page, write a question, something that she just really needed an answer to in her life. And then to just go about her scripture study and prayer. And then as she was studying, write down her thoughts, and she was amazed at how the answers would come. And it really inspired me. And so I started doing it. And I've talked about it a little bit in some of my other videos. And I actually wasn't going to share this as one of my methods. In fact, this week I was going to share my one verse method, and I still will in my video next week. But as I was trying to prepare for the video this week, I just kept getting the thought, I have to share this one first, because with all the methods that I'm sharing for scripture journaling, this one is the most important, because if you can do this one, it will magnify everything else you do in your scripture journaling. Take out your journal and just at the top of the page, write a question. And it may be something huge. It may be something that you think is silly, or it may be something just little. But just remember that if it's important to you, it's important to him. If you have children and they come up to you and they have questions, is it important to you? Okay, I know what you're thinking. Well, I don't know. They ask me a million questions a day, and some of them I really just would rather not have to answer. Okay, I get where you're going. You care about your kids. And if they come up to you and they have a sincere question that they want an answer for, you care about giving them that answer. You care about them. If it means something to them, it means something to you, because you're their parent. So think about it that way. If you ever feel like he doesn't care, he does. He's your father. He's your father in heaven. Anyway, like I said, it could be any question. It could be, I'm having a really hard time in this relationship with this person, and I really need to set boundaries and I need help. Or I know I need to love this person, but they're making it really hard. Or I want to be a good mom, but I get so frustrated and I get so tired and I get so angry every day, and I just want to be calm. How do I overcome this? How do I become a better person? Or it can be, I am so tired of having to come up with dinner every single night. I'm exhausted. Do I really have to make dinner for my kids every night? I know that sounds silly. I'm telling you, it's not silly. Every question is important. Because if you're asking the question, obviously you're stressed out about it and you need an answer. Anyway, okay, I'm getting a little too silly here. No, it's not too silly. Okay, here we go. So you've got your question in your journal, and I know in the back of your head you might be thinking, this is not going to get answered. Nowhere in the Bible is it going to tell me XYZ, because I know what you're thinking. In your mind, you're thinking, these are modern day problems that they didn't have back then. So how am I going to find it in the Bible? Again, I'm going to reiterate, very important. As you are studying and you're slowing down and you're pondering and you're writing, listen. Listen to what comes. And then the natural man inside of you, your critical self, is going to say, this isn't coming from God. This is just me thinking. Who cares if it's coming from you or from God, because sometimes you won't know. Write it down. Just write down your thoughts, because I promise you, as you write down the things that are good, that are coming to your mind as you're studying, someday you're going to go back and you're going to read that journal and you're going to read that entry and you're going to read that answer that you wrote down, and you're going to think, oh, wow, that was really powerful. I think that really did come from God. But it may take a while for you to recognize it. And most of the time in the moment, you won't. Sometimes you will. I'm saying this from personal experience. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and read an answer that I wrote down at the time. I thought, this is just me thinking, and it's not really God speaking to me through the Spirit. And then when I read it later, and later means I'm outside the situation and it might even be resolved by now. And I'm like, that was some pretty powerful stuff he gave me. Okay, maybe I'll write things down more often. Okay. As I was thinking about the importance of asking questions, I was reminded of an experience I had with my daughter. We lived in Kentucky for like 5 years, and during those 5 years, she was born. So, for basically 3 years of her life, she didn't really experience any neighbors. We lived on 5 acres. Our neighbors were so far away, we couldn't even see them from our front window. But my daughter that was life for her. She just was a little free bird and liked to roam around outside and didn't really experience city life. That was all she knew, was country life. Well, about the time she was 3 or 4, we actually moved. And we moved out of the country to a town in a neighborhood with lots of neighbors. And the first night we were there, after we had unpacked the moving truck, I realized my daughter was missing, and it threw me into a panic because I knew it was our first night here and she did not know anybody or know where anything was. So if she went wandering, I was worried she was not going to be able to find her way back home. So we immediately started searching for her. And after many long minutes, anyone who's a mother has searched for a lost child knows how long those minutes can drag when you're scared you might not find your kid. We finally found her. And here's the funny story. So we found her across the street in our neighbor's house, who we hadn't even met yet. And this sweet little girl of mine had just crossed the street and just walked into their house. And thankfully they weren't home yet, because that would have been a very awkward situation. Hi, I'm here to retrieve my child that's just walked into your house. And by the way, my name's Katie. Come meet our family. But anyway, it just kind of got me thinking, because at first I was just so upset at her because I had been scared, right? Trying to find her. And my first thought was to reprimand her about, you don't just walk into people's houses without knocking, and you don't ever leave the house without asking. We were so worried about you. But then it hit me. She had never been taught to knock. Okay, obviously she shouldn't have left in the first place, but what I'm trying to get at here is I was so upset that she would just walk into somebody's house. And yeah, when I thought about it, I realized because we had been living out in the country on 5 acres with neighbors that were not close enough to ever really go visit, this little girl had grown up never having the experience of like walking next door to the neighbor and knocking on their door. So this was normal for her. And she was so excited to see that there were houses near us. So of course she was super, super curious and wanted to go investigate, right? This was different than the rolling hills of Kentucky that she had been playing on. So I just thought about it, and when I think about asking questions and how important it has become in my study, it's kind of like knocking. You wouldn't just like show up at your neighbor's house or your best friend's house. I mean, maybe it was your best friend, and just walk in their house. Usually when you show up at someone's house, there's a reason. You have a purpose, and you knock. And to me, that's kind of like asking questions during your study. If you just show up to your study and your time with God and just plow right into those pages in the scriptures with no intent beforehand and no questions, how much do you think you'll really get out of it? My experience has been that if I actually prepare for my time in the scriptures and my time with God with a question, I get so much more out of my study. It's almost like God sees that I really want to know what He thinks. I really want to learn what He wants me to learn. And because I'm putting forth the effort to have questions, I feel like I get more answers, and He knows that I value it, and so He gives me more. And that's just my experience, and everyone else's experience is their own, but just found questions bring answers. And I'm not saying that I don't have some really awesome time in my scriptures if I just open and read. You know, there's casual reading and then there's deep study. But my most profound and my most special times in the scriptures have been when I'm prepared with a question. But the reason why I just so wanted to focus on this today, and I wish I had started with this method before all the other ones that I am sharing, and the one I shared last week about the one word, is that this one method, coming up with a question before you approach God, will affect everything else that I share. The one word method, the one verse, the other three that I'm not going to give you yet because then I'll spoil the surprise. But all of them, if you have a question first, will be way more powerful and way more meaningful. Because all of the methods that I'm sharing that I have learned to love have more power and more meaning if you have a question. So that's why I just really wanted to pause for a second before I talk about my one verse method next week and share with you my experience with asking questions.